Greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Dale Barzy. As always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey. And today, I am very, very pleased to welcome Shantrece Davis out of Puerto Rico. Shantrece is a double board certified nurse practitioner and transformational life coach. She's the founder of FhyteWell, which is a wellness company aimed at high achieving women over 35, helping them to restore balance through functional health and mindset transformation. So, welcome, 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 Shantrece.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here on your show.
I am happy that you're doing this. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
So, why are you a nurse? What brought you into nursing?
Ah, the question, right? I think a
Mhm.
part of it, Dell, I've always been kind of drawn to healing. I think even as a child, right? I was always helping my dolls or helping my little friends. However, I didn't end up being a nurse. I went into starting my career in marketing and advertising. And I know that it sounds cliche, but it was actually for me a calling. I felt called to help people, and I felt called to actually help people feel better. That was what really attracted me to nursing. And so it wasn't a physical thing for me, it was more emotionally and spiritually, right? So my journey into nursing really was a response to that calling. And so while I thought I would end up in business, I believe in God, and so God had a calling on my life, right? And it was one that I had to answer, right? So I really started to see firsthand the disparities within people of color, really. I was working in marketing and advertising, but I worked very close, although I was in a city, um, with individuals in underserved communities. And so, as I would be waiting to pick up my lunch or, driving in a store, I would overhear conversations, and I've always been drawn to health, but it was some of them were so misaligned with what health was. And I was hearing it over and over. Additionally, I was really seeing firsthand the health disparities among women, some of them in my family.
Mhm.
Um, and so I knew I wanted to be part of the solution. And I didn't want to just be someone who treated symptoms, but I really wanted to learn how to really get to the core. And at the time, I didn't know what that looked like, but I knew that it was something really internal, and it had to do with education, mindset, and really understanding how to best take care of yourself. So
Mhm.
I ended up there. I come from a family of nurses and healthcare providers. And then on my husband, though at the time, I met him, did not know that, right? He was doing something different. He's in
Ah,
pharmaceuticals, and then everyone in his family, they're physicians. So God just put me in between this family. So it was no escaping it.
there was no escaping it. So you had a different career, and
Yeah.
once you
Yeah.
decided to become a nurse, you had a family full of nurses. What kind of advice did you get?
I think constantly I was such a person of pushing back, right? I was like, I don't want to do that. That's not anything I'm interested in. Um, right. So they were all, this is a good profession. You'll always have a job, the amount of money you can make, the flexibility. So they lended on that side of, this is a really good profession. And if you do it right, hey, you don't always have to be in the hospital. Although they did share, if you wanted to make the best pay, that's
Mhm.
probably the place you need to be. But you
Mhm.
can be a school nurse. There was flexibility in that where if you didn't want to do that, you can work in a doctor's office. And Dell, I didn't want any parts of it. It was, they were working on me for years. I remember my aunt used to come and show me, and mind you, I was about 15 or 16 at the time. And I always had an idea that I wanted to help people, right? So that was always there, but it also came in a form of teaching, right? God put on me as a very young kid to teaching. So I enjoy teaching as well. And so I
Mhm.
remember asking her, well, can I just teach? I don't want to do all that stuff that you're doing. And she said, let me show you what you would make if you worked in the hospital. And I remember at the time, which was unheard of in the early 90s, she was making over $100,000 a year. And so she was doing temp, not temp, but it was what we call today locums.
Look,
And so, yeah. And so to me, it was like, oh, that I didn't know you could make, and that was a huge amount of money, to me as a
yes,
14, 15
yes,
year old.
of
Yeah,
course.
right. And so I was just like, well, maybe. And then she showed me the teacher's salary and not in comparison. She was like, you just have to be prepared, for the lifestyle that you want and be able to, I'm
Hmm.
not swaying you, but, and
Hmm.
so that kind of stuck with me, to be honest. Really, it stuck with me. And so I still pondered with, do I really want to do this? Because she shared lots of stories that were traumatic. We always have nursing stories, and
Yes.
she shared those stories, and it was just like, I'm not doing that. And so I think
Hmm.
that really is where the wall came, but
Okay.
really understanding more as I grew up that nursing encompasses so much, right? That was just one part of the story. And so after doing my own research and, working for a bit, saving up some money and not being able to shake the calling of God, I went ahead and moved in that direction.
So, so here you are. Many people come to nursing as it's their first profession. They
Yeah.
come out
Yeah.
of high school, out of college, wherever, and they come into nursing. But you're coming to it as a second career.
Yeah.
You've established yourself in a place,
Yeah.
and now you have to go back to be kind of, in some ways, maybe a little bit subservient, um, and grow now
Yeah.
where you're planting yourself. How did that challenge you?
Whoa. So the challenges that I had, so mind you, like I said, I was coming from a business background. So
Hmm.
everything was for me, more structured, right?
Yeah.
And there wasn't much flexibility for things to go
Hmm.
awry or, things that weren't planned. And
Yeah.
I was part of the planning committee. So I was, planning events. It was structured. We had
Hmm.
times. So you didn't really have to think on your feet as often. I mean, it happened, but not as much as nursing. And I think the transition for me, it's a different one. So
Hmm.
I worked in the business for about 5.5, 6 years, right? And even then, I still wasn't sure because I even pondered with PA. I had started a pre-professional PA program.
Okay.
Um, and in that instance, I said, well, I like teaching, I like helping people, and I was seeing a lot of mental illness around that time.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I went ahead and paired that with a psychology degree. So I started with the psych degree and I said, I'll, add on to the nurse and a pre-professional. So I utilized that as kind of like, I don't know, the
Yeah.
idea, the bridge to get me there. And I think once I got into the nursing, I went to school in DC. I was in Catholic University, but if you're familiar with DC and the areas, there's areas that could be affluent and
Yeah.
there's areas that are not. And so where I was going to do these projects for school, I went into different communities and I was seeing significant disparities, more than I had saw before, right? I think the challenge there was just understanding how can I reach all of these people, right? How can I reach all these people in a way that is education when they don't even have access to good health care? So that
Yeah.
was a challenge to see because I've not, like I said, I've encountered, but just understanding that where I was doing my rotations or the people who were coming to see me, unless there was a hospital that I went to, Holy Cross, um, I wasn't seeing people that looked like me to touch those who were in the underserved
Yeah.
community.
Hmm.
And so the challenge there was how can I create this big impact? How can I help people in a way that I'd like to help? And so I came up with the idea where I would sign up to do things for underserved communities, whether it looked like going into a community to pick a community that maybe was underserved to help them with food choices, nutrition, food deserts in
Uh-huh.
DC.
Hmm.
Um, I went out to Belize to help women better care for their just reproductive health, right? And their children, and teach them how to best provide nutrition for their kids and while they're in the antepartum and postpartum phases. Um, so that allowed me to address some of the challenges that I had, but I would tell you the biggest challenge I saw that kind of coincides with everything is once I got into nursing, how often we were treating symptoms in isolation and overlooking the whole person. And that to me was a significant issue because, in my mind, although holistic health is at the core of nursing, really understanding my rotations, my books, my instructors, they all taught me this. But when I was going in to help clients on the other side of provider, when I was just a nurse in that sense, I didn't feel like I had much impact because I'm seeing folks that shouldn't be on the medicine. I'm trying to teach them and give them education. They don't know why they're on the medication. They don't know how long they've been taking the medication. Some of them were just taking it because the doctor told them, when I would find that they no longer needed to take this medication. And so I'm like, this system's programmed to continue to give the medication to clients and treat these symptoms, but they're overlooking the whole person. This person as well, they've done better. I saw, we're all busy, but I was seeing that people were overlooked.
Yeah.
Um, they were taking things that they probably didn't need to take anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. We were treating the side effect of that medication, but the medication was no longer required. So
Yeah.
I will say in the nursing, I faced burnout, right? And health issues really of my own. Um, it being really stressful for me, being overworked, feeling defeated, because I was seeing clients come in over and over and over again. And I had a career where, I did locums, I did, I was a full-time employee, part-time.
Mm-hmm.
I picked
Mm-hmm.
up, nursing, we always have different jobs, but I
Yep.
worked very I should say it was very intentional that I worked in underserved communities. So I always did community hospitals or the county hospitals. I'd had some hospitals that we had all the resources and it was influent, but Gala was born for me. It wasn't much to do there, right? Much to teach.
Mm.
Those folks knew what
Yeah.
to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I wasn't being utilized. So those experiences really led for me a deep transformation and taught me how to really honor my body, set boundaries, and ultimately shift into like a more holistic path that
Yeah.
included functional medicine, coaching, spiritual practices that I incorporate today.
Nursing
Yep.
particularly, what do you think you want to see change, if anything?
I would say I want to see more change in where I'm at right now is I want to see more change in shift to allowing people to really focus holistically on their health,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Mm.
idea is because we can take as much medication as we need or require, but if we're not getting to the root of the cause, why is this occurring? Why is this happening? But also the root of the cause as we talk about education and how to care for our bodies, what we're putting in our bodies. The medicine as just, again, a band-aid over the problem, right? And if we're not really focusing on the internal issues, gut health, we all know if we don't have our microbiome in order, we can take as much medication. And where I'm at is at the phase of helping women understand hormone optimization and how much you need to take care of your body first before you start putting or incorporating HRT or any other things into your body, supplements, right? And
Yeah.
so I'd like to see a focus more going back to holistic health, the benefits. I mean, if you look over the years, what we did in the past, right? There was a gear. Yes, technology helps us, right? That, technology helps us and development and research helps us, but we also need to go back just to the basics, right? What are
Basics.
we eating? What are we putting in our body? Are we doing whole foods? Are we getting enough sun, right? Are we drinking enough fluids, right? Whether that you do coconut water or water. What are
Water.
we doing at the core basics to help us to really optimize our body without putting anything in it? Because you might find you are depleted in
Those two.
minerals, right? And that'll fix the problem as opposed to going out to get another medication or a supplement or a drug. So I
Yeah.
really like to see more of a shift. And I have to say, I am seeing a lot of that these days, more specifically in where I kind of shifted into the women's health or women's wellness, right? I am seeing a bit more of that, but I like to see the healthcare really focus on that side, how we can best optimize that, and then let's see what happens after if you still need these things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because as you see, I see that you have a lot of focus on, hormonal, optimization and you talk about, women over 35 and the hormone imbalance and all of this kind of thing. And really all we do, I heard someone say something the other day about slapping the estrogen patch on.
Mhm.
Um, and I thought to myself, I wonder what happened before you slapped the estrogen patch on. Uh,
Yeah. Yes, right?
you
Yes.
know,
Because some women
uh,
just think it's a quick fix. They don't
yes,
know. They don't know.
yes, exactly.
If you don't know, some of them don't know, and it's just about education. And like I said, it's a full circle because I'm able to do both, treat,
Yeah,
help, holistic, and also educate women in a sense that some believe I'll just take a HRT, right? Or I'll take this hormone replacement and not understanding how the sex hormones are created in the gut, right? If
yeah,
you don't have these things really in order, and it's just in general, right? Systemic. You have to
yeah.
get your gut in order because you won't be able to process or you'll continue to have those problems after HRT. They're not going to go away,
They're not
right?
gonna
So what
go
are you
away.
eating,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And you said you're not gonna be able to process, and that's the thing. That's the thing. It can't even you can't even absorb the stuff
yes,
anyway.
yes, terrible, terrible gut health and microbiome I'm finding. Some think that they need hormones, and once they get their, diet right and minerals in order, it's all those symptoms have gone away, right?
Yeah.
So again, treating a side effect of something else and just start with the core. If we can do that, then I'm not totally against, right? Conventional medicine, right? That's where I came from. But when I say getting to the holistic and really taking some of the functional practices, the easy thing. Are you getting enough sun? Are you eating
Mm-hmm.
enough? For
Mm-hmm.
women over 35, how much protein are you eating?
Are you
How
eating?
are you digesting that? What are you finding after you eat? Just getting in touch with your body would make all the difference in some of the symptoms I see.
And some of those symptoms, and not for nothing, but some of those symptoms aren't even physical.
Yes, ma'am. You are so right.
Some of those symptoms aren't even physical. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You've created a company called FhyteWell, and I'm intrigued by the name of this company because of the way it's spelled. You spell it F-H-Y-T-E, well. So where did that name come from?
Yeah, so again, I told you I believe in God. I had started the company under another name and I couldn't trademark that name because God had given me the idea to really trademark it. Spiritually, it was given to me. And
Hmm.
when I started down that road, I could not do that. And so I was like, okay, I have no name for this company, but I have an idea. And so I prayed and meditated, one of the things that I do a lot, and I was given the name in the dream. I was only given Fight. And so I was like, what would that mean? How would that align with what? And once I started to really look at my brand and what I've done, I was like, oh, female health, yield, and transformational energy. How? It just came to me, right? And so
Yes.
then it aligned with a lot of things because you could take the acronym and place it everywhere and it fits so well for me. So as I said, female health yield and transformational energy, I had female health yield and true empowerment, right? And then
Yes.
I gone back to different things for female hormonal health,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
true empowerment. So it just lies and aligns with some of the pillars within the company, which I teach women how to really go inside, right? So we talk about mindset and how we can reframe our thoughts and our beliefs and how the past does not dictate or define our future. We talk about where we are in the present moment, how to really be mindful in that. And that's mindful eating, that's mindful with what we're taking into our body, right? We talk about how we can get to this place of women feeling empowered because most know and can identify with once you are at a certain age, whether it's over 35, 40, 45, we feel unseen, we feel unheard. We feel like these challenges that we are having internally are also externally, and there's not a lot of support. So we're
Yeah.
showing up, right? High achievers, right? Most of the people have careers. As a woman, all right, as a wife, as a mother, as a career person, and we're supposed to be able to take care of ourselves. So, how
Mhm.
do we best do that? Right. And so that's where it kind of came from. It's a real inspiring, true empowerment for women. I want them to feel inspired, empowered to be able to take care of themselves and also do it in a way that helps them show up in the world fighting well, right? Because they say women have to fight for everything. And so I wanted to just take that and that idea of, yeah, it's there. There's a struggle in all these areas that I've mentioned, but how can you best change that mindset so that you can show up in a way that you're doing all of these jobs well? What can we do here to help you show up empowered.
Wow. I'm so glad I asked you about that because that's a huge umbrella when you break it down to, to fight, and what those letters can translate into. Huge,
Yeah, yeah,
huge. Thank you
yeah.
so much for that. Thank you
No
so much for
problem.
that.
Yeah.
What would you say? I see you as having done a lot. And I see you, especially through this fight well, looking to
Yes.
do a lot. Two questions. One, what would you say is your biggest achievement so far?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Um, let's see. I would tell you because I thought about it before, but it used to be family wise, just being able to navigate everything that I've navigated with a young son and a husband and still showing up for myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I used to say, you ought to be proud of yourself. You did all of this. Because going through, school and the
See?
doctorate and doctorate project, and I had partnered with a health hospital to change, right? A few things in the hospital. So trying to navigate that. That was my biggest achievement for so long. But I would have to tell you the greatest achievement has been building this company, FhyteWell, because it's a platform where I really can blend my clinical knowledge, the lived experiences, and the coaching expertise that I have to really support women through the most difficult parts of their lives. That's midlife and struggling through that transition from perimenopause to menopause. And so, under helping them understand the misunderstood chapters of their life and seeing women go from really exhausted and struggling to really feeling energized, aligned, and empowered has been the real win for me.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Would you say that there were any skills that you learned as a nurse? Because I'm recognizing that you came initially from a business background and
Hmm.
then into a nursing. What skills as a nurse kind of translated easily or helped you along the way into the entrepreneurship space?
I would say probably most being able to be blessed to work in autonomous um, communities
Mm,
and being able to often have jobs that allowed me to have autonomy. And so I
mm-hmm,
say that if it's through locums, we all nurses know that a nurse is going to have 1 to 2 jobs. And so I always did per diem, where that's
mm-hmm,
kind of like autonomy. You work when you want to work, you sign up where you want to work. And I
mm-hmm.
always did that with other area hospitals. I was always interested in how other people are running their business. And that was just something in general. How does this hospital do it? How are they making this work? Because I had been to good hospitals and some who were maybe not so good.
Not so good. Mm-hmm,
Right. So the organization there. And so here in Indianapolis, there's a county hospital that has done that very well for underserved population, whether it comes from education to care. I worked for a hospital called Eskenazi Health. And although I had the most traumatizing times, just patients,
mm,
really challenging me and things that I saw that was difficult to see
mm-hmm.
there, that is probably where I learned how to best manage task and multitask because there wasn't a lot of support in a sense. It was a county hospital, but it was a beautiful, brand new hospital um, that allowed a lot of resources. So you were able to get your job done. So we had what we needed. However,
Mm,
maybe not the man, the bodies, right?
mm,
So you had four clients or four patients you would see, and those patients were your own. We didn't have techs or anything like that. So you saw the four patients and they were high acuity, right? It was
mm-hmm.
high acuity. And so understanding how to best navigate and prioritize, you learn that in school. But when I say it was really demonstrated, you take that to me. For me, I learned parts of a business. As a solopreneur, how do I best navigate my accounting, my admin, my client, my marketing? Now, I
Yeah.
did have some business and marketing experience, but
Mm,
that opportunity allowed me to pull from that. And then out of school, I had a couple jobs where I had significant autonomy. I only was tied with a company where I offered, so most of my project and my doctor was in palliative care. I
mm,
got a job where I was actually going into homes and seeing, so I'm managing everything from my home to see these
yeah.
clients. And so that allowed me how to best Who am I going to see first? What's the best way? Because I drove to these folks, and sometimes it was an
Yeah.
hour and a half, 2 hours, right?
Hmm.
Who is most important to see? Who do I need to get the hospice? So being able to really function in different parts, that sometimes it was difficult. You have family members who may be
Yeah.
a barrier to your help, right? Or a gatekeeper to the
Yep.
progress, right? And you had to best navigate the family, the client, the providers, because they had several providers, right? And so I think taking from those lived experiences as well as my business background has allowed me a way to really assess what I need in the business, what I need for myself, what my clients need, in addition to some coaching opportunities that I've had since starting the company. And so
Yeah.
being able to take nursing, because that is where I feel like I got the most and how
Yeah.
we best navigate in general. And then I don't want to say it's really exclusive to me. You have to
Hmm.
learn prioritization as a nurse.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so that skill set being in school, taking it here to really working into a hospital that in a community was underserved, but staff that was underserved in a sense, but that was their model. Understand it. And it helped me in so many ways. I mean, till this day, I love that hospital.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love it because so many nurses are going into segueing into entrepreneurship, even while they continue with their regular jobs. And I think of so many skills that we acquire as
Yeah.
nurses that are so translatable wherever we want to put them.
Yes.
It's huge. It's huge. What advice would you give to someone who wants to be a nurse?
Oh, so I would tell them absolutely. Absolutely, to be a nurse, because from what I just shared with you in terms of the transformation I found within myself and my business, allowing them to know that, you can take the nursing profession in any direction that you choose. I
Yeah.
think a lot of us get caught up into our elders, right? Our elder
Hmm.
nurse, some of those who maybe not had the happy experience that many other nurses who have had
That's
and
right.
don't go into nursing, because plenty have
Mhm.
told me, you're going to be a nurse, why would you do that?
I
Or
know.
if I had to tell you that again, if I had to do this again, I would not do this. And I've
Hmm.
always been, Dale, a person who always sees the glass as half full. I've always.
Hmm.
And also, um I've been a person who've always been blessed to see, well, that's your experience. Mine may be very different. Never to say that to anyone, but in my mind is,
But
that's her experience. Everything I believe you bring with you, lived experience, your background, will dictate whatever you do in life. And so if your
mhm.
mindset is set up to say, this is a bad profession, well, you're going to get everything bad that comes in a profession, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I just saw opportunity within nursing. So if I were talking to my younger self or a young person thinking about it, I would tell them absolutely do it, right? It's a sacred work. It's more than a job, right? It's a calling to really witness humanity at its rawest and be resilient, right? If you're
Mhm.
drawn toward, honor the nudge. Don't wait like I did, right? Never forget that, right? The voice inside of us, or even the intuition, is your presence. That's the presence that's mattering. It's always going to guide you in the right direction. And not to believe you're just a caregiver, right? Understanding nursing position is a leadership, excuse me,
Yeah.
leadership position. Don't understand it as I'm just a nurse or I'm just doing bedside, because you are we see the providers, and it's not that the providers, doctor, physician, whomever, um, comes through to see the client. It's not that they're doing education, but
Hmm.
we are at the bedside. We are doing the most education, and it's led for us. So you
Yeah.
may impact someone significantly just with
Yeah.
what you're giving. And
Yeah.
there's absolute flexibility within there. You can have your own business. If you want to start out as, and some people would tell me, oh, you can't go to be a, you can't, why would you go get your doctorate? That's silly. Or why would you start your own business? That's silly. And to me,
Yeah.
I thought it was just flexible. I never started this profession to work for anyone. So that
Yeah.
was like going in. I knew that I was always going to be at a higher level. And I
Yeah.
also knew that I was going to find something that allowed me to use my skills as a nurse to create something of my own.
Yeah, yeah. And as you were talking, you said when the seed is planted, follow it.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
sometimes the thing that I've noticed though is that sometimes the seed is planted long before it's ready to grow.
Yeah, that part. Yes, ma'am.
Long before it's ready to grow. But you just gotta keep watering it, It'll
Hmm.
grow. It'll grow.
Yes, it.
Uh, lastly, what do you do to care for you? What do you do for self-care?
I would tell, well, there's several things. Okay, so I push a lot and, and being transparent. I practice what I preach, but I fall short sometimes. And I would say it's the truth. It's
We all,
overworking. It's a
yes.
business, right? And so if someone needs help, or maybe cut it off at 5 or 6, whatever the time is, and I get
Mhm.
an email, and this is an email of someone really needing some help, I respond to that, right? But for the most part, I stay aligned with presence, right? How are you really fully showing up, Shantrese? Right? Are you creating that safety and that healing for yourself, or connection with source, who I call God, right?
Mhm.
What skills that you need, or knowledge or intuition that's coming to you, is that flowing from a grounded place, a compassionate presence, right? Is that flowing from a space that allows you the opportunity to really show up fully? And it's checking in with yourself. How am I feeling? Right? How am I feeling right now in this moment? I notice I'm very more intentional about it, very much more intentional about it. And it's been about, oh, I don't know, I've since starting my meditation journey 8 years now, but being able to connect with yourself and checking on yourself to say, how am I feeling right now in my body? When I'm overwhelmed because I have this one reaching out to me, this one reaching out to me having to do a case review or whatever, sitting to say it's okay to take a moment. That stuff is still going to be there.
It's
So
good.
the way I do it is through what I call it, a sacred maintenance, right? It's not spa days, but it's nourishing myself, protecting my peace, honoring my hormones. And as I say that, not being so stressed. So getting enough sleep. When I'm working too late, I have a I have a rule. You're allowed to do that 3 nights a week, right? And that's it, right? Because if I know I can't do the 5 because it's a busy moment in my
Yeah.
life, right? Okay, you're allowed 3 times a week. That's it. Once I hit the 3, I have to stop at the certain time. So it's allowing me to get my 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It's allowing me to wake up, to get up to first thing in the morning, first 10 minutes, get the sun on my eyes and face, right? To make sure I can fall asleep and I'm not stressed. The circadian rhythm is intact. It's allowing me the
Yeah.
opportunity. How much are you drinking? How much are you eating? Have you got up today? Are you sitting too long? Right? Being in
Yes.
that space. So if you
Yes.
can be present, it allows you the opportunity for that intuition to flow and for you to feel grounded. And taking those moments where I'm creating a space, like I said, I do meditation, but sometimes it's just in the morning journaling to get whatever it is that I have on my mind out so I can start my day with my family, my clients, my patients in a place of reflection and compassion and connection and love. I pray. And so usually it's just centering myself, and I talk to God often. I'm a very spiritual person as we talk about like
Mm,
meditation, but really checking into myself. So I feel like whatever you want to call it, for whomever, God, source, guides, I feel like I'm always getting the help that I need. But it's always like an inner voice, and that inner voice is the wisdom, and it always knows you need to slow down, or it's always you need to they tell me move, move. So I'll
mhm,
get up and move. And when I
mm,
move, I start to feel a flow. I don't know, a flow of energy, almost like a quick reset. So it's walking, moving. Walking is the best thing for me.
mm,
And once that's
mm.
done, I feel totally fine.
Yes, yes, indeed. And that's the thing. You've got to know what does it for you. What
Yeah,
does it for you?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Chantrice, thank you so very much for this conversation. It has been enlightening, it's informative, and very fun. Thank you.
Yes, I loved it. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. My pleasure.